Hey, everybody. It's me, Melanie, your plant-based coach, helping caregivers eliminate chronic stress and maintain optimal health while caregiving. And I am here. One second. Oh, that's the echo here. And I'm here. How's everyone doing? I'm here today with my colleague and Dr. Janelle Green, plant-based podiatrist and nutrition coach. She has a program entitled Dismantling Diabetes. She helps individuals with diabetes and uncontrolled blood sugars. She also helps them prevent complications related to uncontrolled blood sugars, and specifically amputations in the feet, using mindfulness, coaching, and plant-based nutrition. She does speaking engagements as well as coaching in her podiatry clinic. Let's welcome Dr. Janelle Green. We're happy to have you here. Thank you, Janelle. And
Thank you.
Today we're going to talk about how emotional intelligence can help you maintain a healthy lifestyle when your life is cray-cray. Okay, so let's get started.
So yeah. So first, I love the title, When Your Life is Cray Cray, because sometimes as a caregiver, things are just that way. And it just feels like, you can't do anything about that. But tell me, why is it, so I've said why it's important to have this conversation, but why is it important to have this conversation specifically for caregivers? And, my audience is those with uncontrolled type 2 diabetes. Anybody who walks on this planet needs to have their health in check,
Exactly.
Especially when things are just disarray and you just don't know up from down. Why is this important to you?
Well, for me and those who I serve, their mantra is cray cray, because when you're a caregiver, you have so many responsibilities, and each day can be unpredictable from the next. Sometimes you're caregiving an individual and you still have your own family to care for. There's a lot of dynamics around it that can really cause your days to be really crazy. And most times, because of this, caregivers tend to neglect their health. And also they find it a struggle to how do they organize or manage all of this and still be able to take care of themselves. So I thought this was a great topic to help caregivers, anyone, because these days everyone is dealing with a lot of different situations and financial problems, all kinds of things. So this can help all people, but in particular, I think especially caregivers.
Thank you so much for sharing, Melanie. And one of the things that I wanted to add that you didn't share is I'm a caregiver too, amidst all of that.
Yes.
And so we
Yes.
share that same passion. We share those same kind of daily tasks. So I was definitely interested because
and that's
caregiving
what kind of brought us together, and and this collaboration.
Yeah, caregiving can be stressful. And so some of the caregivers that you have, I'm sure, have type 2 diabetes as well. So I'm sure they may be able to benefit from this conversation. So we know why it's important, because it's important for you to be able to take care of yourself. Caregiving can be physically, mentally, financially exhausting sometimes.
Yes.
All of those things, as much as we care and we do it from our heart, that's the real about it. And so having this conversation is important. How do you recommend that people do that? What are some of the, let's get into it. What are some of the things that people can do in order to maintain their emotional intelligence and stay healthy when things are cray cray?
Okay, so we all know that adopting a healthy lifestyle, which includes eating a healthy diet, going to the gym, exercising, and dealing with the practical things that go with adopting a healthy lifestyle. So we know those things that we need to do, but that's not where it ends. Just doesn't end with a healthy diet, getting enough sleep, exercise. It takes a lot of other things too, such as addressing your spirituality, as well as your mental and emotional well-being. And sometimes people think that being healthy, like I said, has just to do with our bodies, but it also has to do with our minds. So we need to address our spirituality, our relationships, and we need to have a community that supports us, especially when you're caregiving.
No, that's real good. And I was listening to one of my mentors who happens to be a financial mentor talk this morning, but he was just talking about how you have to have a good team, because sometimes in caregiving and in other fields, it can get really lonely. And so you have to
Mhm.
make sure you have a good team of people who are rooting you on during those times when you're questioning, like, did I make the right decision? Did I do this right thing for the person that I'm caring for? Am I choosing the right meals for them? Or how do there's so many questions in this process. Having people who are rooting you on in that is so important because it can be lonely. And you may not find that support in the people that you grew up with, in maybe your family or your coworkers, or even sometimes your church members. You may not find that. And so you have to pick and choose your team, people, that are trying to go in the same place that you go, and more importantly, that are encouraging you to get there, that have your back, so that they can replenish you and replenish you on your way, on your journey to helping the people around you.
Definitely, I agree with that because as a caregiver, many times your loved one or whoever you're caring for, lots of times they're disabled, which means you have to spend a lot of time at home with them. So you become
Mhm.
isolated and you
Mhm.
disconnected from your community that you usually engage with. However, when you get that team and support, it doesn't have to be individuals that you know personally. It can be resources, it can be organizations, all types of things can encompass the team that you build for yourself.
Yeah, and that's pushing you on. And one of the analogies that was shared in the talk that I listened to this morning, which was great because I never knew this, but he talked about people that are cyclists and even race car drivers. Like, I know I tend to think of those people as solo champions, like they are out there on their bicycle and they are by themselves, or they're in their race car, and they're by themselves, but they actually have a team around them. I don't know, you may already know this. And those team members help to control the wind around them as they are cycling or racing forward so that they can win the race. And so even though it's maybe one person might win, it's the people that are around you that are pushing you on, that are, controlling the wind, kind of controlling the
Mhm.
environment. And for
Yeah,
us, it's controlling the things that we hear, that helps us, motivate us, control that wind to help us get to that next level. So I thought that was a cool analogy because a lot of
yeah,
times
I
we
think
think
that's
that,
a great one too.
yeah, that we function, or that person, that race car driver, that cyclist is just a champion by themselves, but they're not. And
Right.
so it was
That's
good for
right.
me to hear that.
I love it. I love that. And so,
Yeah.
and so all of those things, they help us to create balance
hmm
in our lives
hmm
because as caregiver, when you're caregiving, you can really feel off balance. You can feel all over the place, disorganized, you can feel chronically stressed. So that team helps you keep balanced. And then when you're talking about the race car, I see on TV when they make those stops and they change their tires and they
hmm
do, fix up the car. So maybe the tires are a little off. They need to get it back on balance to get straight. So you need that team. You do need that team. That was a great analogy.
Yes. So tell me, what are some, I know we talk a lot in our community about, in our nutrition community, about non-negotiables. So in the process of maintaining balance, what are some non-negotiables that you think people or that caregivers should have in order to help them to keep their intelligent, their emotional intelligence?
Definitely for caregivers, I think there's three that are mandatory. One is your diet, what you're putting into your body, because that can have a great effect on your mental clarity and your energy. And the second is physical movement or exercise. That also can increase your energy, your mental clarity, and give you the physical strength you may need. Because some people do lifting, they do lifting their patient or their caregiving, and just give you that energy and strength you need to perform daily routine activities. And then the third is emotional intelligence, because caregiving can create, if you don't incorporate emotional intelligence and exit strategies, it can create chronic stress. So having those three can help you to, though there's more, but those three to me are non-negotiables that you have to really stick with, and you can't hit or miss with it. And for instance, but our health journey is a lifelong journey. So all the way, you're going to have a little bumps, hiccups in the road, but that routine should be non-negotiable. Those things in your life should be non-negotiable. Like we were talking earlier, I didn't go to the gym today. I try to go to the gym 5 days a week. I didn't go today because that's a whole nother story, but because I did not, what is the term that we use? I didn't have an exit strategy. I wouldn't say it's an exit strategy, but I didn't prepare well enough because I knew we were doing this collab. So I didn't go to the gym today, but that's a non-negotiable for me. And I had to hiccup today, but I'm back on track tomorrow. So those things should be non-negotiable.
And thank you for sharing. Look, thank you for being transparent, because it doesn't happen. Sometimes we fall off. And for you, going to the gym is what you do for your physical activity. So I just want to share and go deeper. What I recommend as well is 30 minutes of physical activity. So whether it may be walking up a hill, walking around the block, sometimes I have a lot of my patients and people that I coach, they can't get in and out of their house so easily. So I say, pace back and forth, put on some music, dance, just get your body moving for 30 minutes. And even if you can't get to the gym, and, when you are able to be creative with how you can get that 30 minutes in, it allows you to do it more often. Okay. Because you can't always, sometimes things come up. You can't always, get to where you need to be, where you feel like, okay, I have every single thing in place for me to exercise. And so that's one of the things that I encourage. And then in terms of healthy eating habits, for people that I work with diabetes, water for sure. That is paramount. Third, water, having half of your healthy body weight in ounces, making sure you have greens every day, and then fiber. Those are the top. Everybody should be at least consuming 30 grams of fiber daily. But I really encourage my patients with type 2 diabetes is to get that fiber in. It's so beneficial, so helpful in lowering your hemoglobin A1C and your daily blood sugars. And then the last thing, what'd you say?
I would say I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And the last thing that you mentioned is emotional intelligence. And so I just wanted to spend a little time there because, we throw that term around a lot, and everybody has emotions, just to make it basic. We got emotions. We are human beings. Everybody has emotions. How do you make them intelligent? How do you make them intelligent so that you don't have too many hiccups in your life, so that you don't make some of the same mistakes over and over again, so that you don't ruin, relationships? How do you keep your emotions on a higher level? How do you keep them intelligent instead of, unintelligent emotions? Because you're going to have them either way. So how do you, what are some things that you recommend for keeping your emotions intelligent, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I was looking up that definition, and it was the definition they had was like ability to understand and manage your own emotions, as well as
mm,
identify and empathize with the emotions of others. And
mm,
so it encompasses a few things: emotional intelligence, that would be having empathy, communication, being self-aware, be able to self-regulate, as well as self-motivate. So those are the things that I was looking at when it comes to emotional intelligence. How do we build on those things and increase them and increase our emotional intelligence?
mm-hmm,
And one of the things when it comes to empathy, I was thinking about listening to your inner voice, right? Because and recognizing where feelings are coming from. Because a lot of times as caregivers, we are compassionate and empathetic for others, but not ourselves, you know? So like sensing our own pain and recognizing when we're the feelings that we're feeling, and having empathy, acknowledging and appreciating how far we've come, and practicing being kind to yourself by how you talk to yourself. Then that would go with part of communication. But having empathy for yourself is one way.
mm-hmm,
And and again with communication, how you talk to yourself. Sometimes we can make mistakes. Oh, I'm so stupid. I did that. Why did I do that? Don't beat yourself up, because caregiving is very demanding, it's very challenging, and we're not going to do everything right. And so communicate how you speak to yourself and being aware of how you're feeling.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think that's really good. And in order to do that, and you kind of hinted on it, I just want to stress, in order to be aware of how you're feeling and where those feelings are coming from, you have to pause. You cannot react. You gotta pause. And so I just want to just look, I'm just gonna pause because no,
Take a deep
really,
breath.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And so that is, I think, the first step to having emotional intelligence is just pause, and we don't do that enough as caregivers, because there is 100 and gazillion things to do for ourselves, for our loved ones, and so a lot of times we forget to take that moment, and it could be 30 seconds if you have 5 minutes, whether you're sitting in the bathroom, or you may get up early and you may just sit down and just pause. Don't do anything, just pause and take some deep breaths. And so I think if I would were to say what was the first thing that you should do to try to gain emotional intelligence, is pause. And then, like you say, so that you can think about your emotions, figure out where they're coming from, and also give yourself space to feel those emotions, because they're real. And then you can evaluate, how do I want to react in this situation? But in order to do that, we need to have a clear mind, fueled by plants, right? Fueled by water, fueled by
Right.
exercise, fueled by clean, deep breathing. So I love that.
Yeah, because those things help you with that mental clarity. When you feeding on processed foods, sugar,
Uh-oh,
fats.
uh-oh, what's happened? Are you
Oh,
still there?
yes, can you hear me?
I can. I think
Okay,
something happened. Maybe a plane flew by. I'm
okay.
not sure. Yeah.
I was just saying, when you're over consuming this salt, oil, sugar, processed foods, it can
Mm,
really deplete your energy, your clarity. It can cause irritability, a whole lot of different things. And this in turn throws off your ability, like you said, to like feel your feelings. And what I wanted to say, when you were talking about that, being aware of your triggers, what your triggers. Now, I mean, we may not always cause or whatever, but we know a lot of times, a lot of us know what triggers us.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things that triggers me is walking down a potato chip aisle. That triggers me. If I walk down that aisle, 70%, I'm gonna grab one of those bag things. And that's a simple thing, but knowing the things that trigger you, and we all have family, friends, or co-workers and things that think people know how to trigger us. So, being aware of your triggers can maybe help you to pause, you know, okay. Because like sometimes I go down that aisle, what I'll do is I'll stop and I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and I'll start talking to myself about the thing. So sometimes being aware of our triggers can help us to pause.
Absolutely. And that's so good. And that's a part of, emotional intelligence, taking the time to know what is going to get you on 10. And it may be somebody may be critiquing how you're providing care, and this particular person always has something judgmental or something to say about how you're providing care. So prepare yourself, take your deep breaths, know that that's a trigger for you. And like, Melanie is saying, it could be the potato chips. For me, it's the sourdough bread place here. I know if I drive in that direction, let me tell you, baby, I am going to stop. So I can't do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't do it. I might once a month. I'll say, okay, once a month, this is it. But having that sugar in your diet excites you and gets your dopamine levels up, and then you come crashing down. And then,
Yes.
I know that was for me. I had sugar and I would be depressed and didn't know why. And that's because I was coming down from the dopamine rush. I was coming
Yes.
down from the sugar high, and I didn't relate it to, look, here I go, the vegan ice cream that I was eating, right? Because
Exactly.
I was like, oh, this is vegan ice cream. It's better. But no, that sugar will have your body and your thoughts on a yo-yo cycle for sure.
Yes, yes. And then you won't have the desire, the energy to do what you need to do. If you suffer with depression, it can enhance that. So,
Mhm.
it starts on our plate, really, a lot of times, what's on our plate. And then, also being able to self-regulate
Mhm.
is important with emotional intelligence. Some of us come from backgrounds where that wasn't modeled for us, or be dealing with personally with some mental health issues or different things. So being able to self-regulate, considering how the choices that we make is going to affect us and others. And so that self-regulation is something that needs to be addressed as well.
Hmm. And then when you are stressed, what are some ways that you encourage people when things are cray cray to let it out? So you've taken a moment, you've paused, you know why you feel that way, you know what your triggers are, but you still got this feeling. How do you
Right,
let it out?
right. Well, to me, the best way to let it out is to learn how to communicate your needs,
I love that.
and so communication, I think, is a big thing with caregivers because sometimes, again, due to what was modeled growing up or society, it associates with love means denying our own needs to attend to the needs of our loved ones. And so we may find it hard to express our needs and what we need. And I find happens a lot with caregivers.
That's so good. That's so good. So what is your suggestion in terms of, here we go with emotional intelligence. Things are crazy. You need to be able to define your needs. What are some tools that you use, maybe personally, or that you share with your clients to defining their needs and really figuring out what those are?
Well, some of the things that we discussed already about awareness and things like that, but learn how to communicate. I was telling you about a book I was reading about nonviolent communication
Mhm.
and how we can use that to communicate. So it's like, I think he talks about there's some steps to it, like observation, right? Instead of just reacting to a situation, observing the situation, right? And then recognizing what you're feeling. And what is the recognizing what you're feeling. I had it here. Oh, observing the situation, right? Recognizing your feelings. And then, noticing what is it that you need in that moment. And then requesting it. And then in turn, whoever you're dealing with, give them that same option to do the same. So like when you're caregiving, it's just like a mad dash. You're not even stopping to consider these things. So we would go back to pausing. Be more observing of how you're feeling, and also be observing of others. What is the situation with them? If you're caregiving someone, or you're dealing with, are they in a lot of pain this day, or whatever it could be, just observing the situation. How's it making you feel? How's the situation making you feel? What do I need in this moment to make me feel, give me what I need, and then requesting that. But we don't do that, especially caregivers. We get afraid, fear of denial, fear of rejection, or we feel guilt or shame. So that book talked about those the four main steps of helping you with your communication, because also as a caregiver with the chronic stress, and if you're not eating right and taking care of yourself, it can bring on irritation. We said it's isolation. We're isolated. We could be irritated. We could be feeling like our needs are not being met. A whole lot of different things. We could be feeling stuck. And then we may lash out, and we may take some action that has some bad repercussions or consequences. So those steps can help both people on both ends, or helping people to deal with different situations.
I just love that as caregivers focusing on our needs. And I'm one of the things that I realized in this journey is that I need times of mindfulness where I can just sit and just focus on, like you said, how I'm thinking. And so I have to steal that time. One of the things that I also helped me in this is learning how to set boundaries, right? With caregiving, you have to set boundaries so that you can protect your own health and safety, but also protect the health and safety of the person that you're caring for. Because if you're
How do you go about setting boundaries?
So I set boundaries in terms of, for example, things I like for the person that I'm caring for. I like things to be done a certain way, laundry, meals, done a certain way. And I had to pause. And for me, the boundary was realizing that I can't control everything. That was the boundary. In addition to that, there was one point I was caregiving for someone, and I was getting a lot of phone calls at work, a lot of phone calls. And I had to say, you know what? I'm not going to let this disrupt what I'm doing at work. You have someone there that can help you. And so I had to stop and say, allow other people to help. This person doesn't need me specifically all the time. And that was kind of challenging. I have to admit, I had to just hang up the phone. I was like, I just had to hang up the phone. I cannot do this. I am at work right now. You have someone there that can help you. And it helped to strengthen me. And it didn't put a negative effect on the relationship, but it did help to create respect between me and the person
Exactly.
that I was caring for. Because a lot of times, and not often, but sometimes people that we're caring for they don't recognize that we have things that we also need to take care of. And so when I was able to establish that boundary, it created that respect. And that person's needs were still met, they were still taken care of, but it created a respect and it allowed me to focus on what I needed to in that moment. So that's one way. And then there's a great book on boundaries. I think Cloud is one of the authors, Ted Cloud or something. But it's establishing healthy boundaries in relationships. And so it just talks about different tools that you need. Also, another boundary that I created was taking a break, taking time away. So this may be, you may consider it a boundary, I don't know, but really taking a vacation and letting myself telling myself rather that I am going to pay for this piece. So it meant, hiring somebody else to come over and take care of my loved one so I could take a day to myself. That's a boundary. Like, I'm not going to, in this caregiving process, I'm not going to let myself get to 100, right? Because even if I am eating right, even if I am exercising, it can still be a very overwhelming process. But in order for me to be sane and in this, I need to have some time away. And so I set the boundary, I don't, maybe boundary is not the right word. Maybe there's another word for that, but I knew that I needed time away. I needed a day away. And so I had to hire someone to come in and take the place. I didn't allow myself to think about, well, what if this happens while I'm gone? Or what if that happens while I'm, all these things that can happen. What if they don't do this right? What if they don't change? Like, I just had to let that go. And that was a boundary for myself, and say, you know what, Janelle, you're going to have some peace today, and you're going to allow the person that you hire to care for this person.
I love that. I love that because, as a doctor, that with chronic stress, like you could be, like you said, you could be eating right and everything, but that elevated cortisol being elevated all the time can still create chronic disease. And I was thinking about that today, about ways that caregivers can get some body or exercise in as I was going to the gym. You have to create exit strategies. And I was thinking about sometimes you may have to hire someone for that that hour a day, or that 2 hours, hour and a half a day, so you can go to the gym, and so you have to pay for peace, or look for resources that will pay for your peace, and go and continue to take care of yourself for your mental and physical health. So I love that.
There are resources. There is an organization that I've been working with a lot. It's called Family Caregiver Alliance. And this here in California, I don't know if it is established in other states, but it is a great resource for caregivers, to providing respite care, to providing therapists. Sometimes caregivers just need to go and talk it out with somebody. So, and then different learning tools and educational materials. So absolutely. Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, so what are some things that you do to maintain joy? Or what do you recommend maintaining joy as a caregiver?
Well, if for people who are subscribers to my channel, they know every time I end my videos, I say, have an amazing day on purpose. And I say that because you have to be intentional about your health and your happiness, because there's so many things, distractions, the world condition, everything that can take away that peace, that joy, all of that, all of that stuff. So I always say, have an amazing day on purpose. So I try to be intentional. And one thing is emotional intelligence. Sometimes I deal with family members, or I deal with people, and I like to go into the room. I always like to go in the room with high energy. I just do. It's my family. I think it's for my family. I like to go with high energy, and I like to go in thinking I belong in the room and that I'm going to have a good time or whatever I'm going to do, And so I just make it intentional. Even if I'm going in the grocery store, I'm like, that gets on some people's nerve, but I'm like, good morning, how you doing? I'm going to keep my joy. I don't want to let anybody rob me from my joy. that I have, because I go through a lot. I have a lot going on in my life. And as a caregiver, you go through a lot, and it can be depressing. It can bring you down. And so you have to be intentional about protecting and holding on to your joy. Now, sometimes when I forget to practice emotional intelligence, I let those people, places, things come in. And then it takes me a minute to regroup. But usually I'll just go in the room and everybody could be down and depressed, but I'm not going to feed into that energy. I try to make it intentional. So to me, you just have to be intentional about it. And it's easier said than done, because sometimes people are dealing with real physical health challenge that causes depression, and it's just not a simple thing of just doing that. But if not, there's so much going on in the world, so much things happening. If you're not intentional, you're going to get sucked right in.
You are absolutely right. Let me tell you, you will get sucked in. And that's why it's so important to have your team, right? Blowing that good wind by your side while you're, trying to champion yourself on, or like you said, changing your tire. Because if you can get distracted by all the crazy, rowdy, unproductive noise, and that can just lower your mood and steal your joy. And so you have to be protective of that, guard your heart, guard your mind, because those things are very important in order for you to maintain your joy. And as you were talking, one of the things I like to say, I tell people, get a good day. Don't have a good day, get a good day, right?
I
Because,
like that one. I like that. And
yeah,
like the title says, cray cray. It's cray cray out here. And you have to find ways, everybody's whatever brings them joy may be different, but things that do bring you joy, try to incorporate them more into your life if you can, and be intentional about not letting people take that from you.
absolutely. And one of the things that I have to try to remind myself is that in this caregiving journey, those people that I'm caring for, some of the moments are just laughable. And so I try to remember to just, you know what? This is so crazy to the point it's got me laughing. And to
Yeah.
remember that I'm human, they're human, we're all just human, and not to take myself too seriously and not take this
Yes.
process too seriously. Because for me, it's like, okay, God's in control. So just laugh. There's some things that are silly, and I just have to just laugh at it,
Yes.
laugh
Yes.
at it. Allow the moment to be what it is, don't make more of it. Don't, get all terrified or stressed out. Just allow, this is what it is. This is how it is in this moment, and I'm
Mhm.
thankful to be breathing, and we're gonna laugh about this right now.
I agree. And then also that helps the person you're caring for, because to be sick and be in some of those situations can be really a downer, depressive. And, you coming in the room and sharing your joy can help lift them somewhat.
And
Yeah.
then music is always a uplifter. As I care for my mom who has Alzheimer's, they say that music is good, and so that creates joy, and people can move their arms and move their body. So that's another way that I help to maintain joy in this.
I love that music. I love music.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I think that, and two, just like we're doing now, just serving brings me
Mhm.
joy, helping other people to recognize that they don't have to stay in the conditions that they're in, and that there's, hope that you can improve your health. You can combat or eliminate diabetes or whatever the chronic health condition is, just serving others and showing them how to do that. That brings joy as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Mhm. So I think our time is wrapping up. And I want to thank you so much for coming on and doing this. We're doing this together. We're both caregivers, and we're supporting each other as well. Like
Mhm.
you're part of my team, you know?
Mhm.
and just knowing someone else who's going through the same thing, someone I can bounce off of, someone who can share resources. So thank you so much, Janelle, for coming
Thank you.
to the channel. Yeah. And again, I'm gonna put your social media in the description. Anybody
Okay.
who needs to or wants to avail themselves of Dr. Green's services, I'll have that information for you. And thank you so much. And have an amazing day, Janelle, on purpose.
On purpose. Look, get a good day. Get a good day. I love it. Thank you so much for having me. It has been a pleasure as always. It helps to, like you said, serving helps to create joy. It reminds me of my purpose, and it's just a light. It feels, like light. The light is shining down on us. So thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Now I'll just have to end this here. And 1 second, let me see what I'm doing. 1 second.